Have all been talking about possible threats to our stock and bond portfolios, and whether it's a weak dollar, rising rates, disappointing job growth, there's always something, right? But what if there were an even greater threat to your savings that you may have overlooked? Joining me now, Jonathan Clements. Do you read his stuff? He's the Wall Street Journal columnist and author of Jonathan Clements' Money Guide 2015. But every time you have an article, I always stop and read it because it speaks to everybody who cares about their money, and who among us doesn't. But you've distilled a couple of issues here that you feel are mistakes people are making right now. I want to get right to them, Jonathan. Number one.
Well, one of the big issues out there is a lot of people are underinsured. And what I'm thinking about specifically here are things like health insurance, disability insurance, and life insurance. For instance, the typical American has $167,000 in life insurance. That's just 3 times the median household income, and yet one rule of thumb says people should have 5 to 7 times income.
Yeah, but why? I look at insurance sometimes and I say, you know, these guys are there when the sun's out, and the minute you need them, they're not there. Like, I have that view of insurance companies sometimes. And listen, it's not always true. But if you're dead, what do you need the insurance for?
So one of the things people think about is, okay, I don't need disability insurance. I mean, what's the chance, I'm going to become disabled? Or I don't need life insurance. I'm young, what's the risk? Similarly, health insurance, what's the chance I'm going to have a heart attack? Yeah, that's true. But what you have to think about is not so much the risk as the consequences. I mean, if you have young kids and you go under the next bus, how is your family going to get by?
Yeah.
You really need to think through this.
Could be completely swamped.
Could be completely wiped out. I mean, you don't want to leave your family in the financial lurch.
I so wouldn't have thought that failing to buy life, health, and disability insurance would be number one on your list, but you say that's crucial. What's number 2?
A lot of people out there have these really badly diversified portfolios. For instance, a startling statistic, among 401k plans that offer employee stock as an option, 8% of participants have more than 80% of their money in their employer's stock. So essentially, they're betting not only their paycheck on the company, but also their retirement. What if the company gets into financial trouble? What if it turns out to be the next Enron? You could not only be out of a job, but you could also find that you have no retirement savings left.
Well, when I worked at CNBC and it was owned by GE, too many people had all their 401k in GE thinking, oh, the sun will shine forever. And look, everybody got swamped on that one.
And the fact is, you don't know what's going to happen to any one individual stock.
Right.
I'm a big fan of investing in the stock market, but if you're going to do it, you've got to be diversified.
Wagering on 1 or 2 heavily mortgaged rental properties. Why is this a danger that people don't recognize?
People are huge fans of investing in rental properties. I mean, it's one of the ways that average Americans have managed to accumulate wealth over time.
Right, they say, oh, it gives me a leg up. I own a rental property, income.
But you're making a huge undiversified bet on a single piece of property. I mean, what if you end up with a troublesome tenant? And at that same point, you end up out of work. Suddenly you can't cover the mortgage payments, you're getting foreclosed on. You could end up in big trouble really quickly. And don't forget, we just had this huge decline in the housing market. Prices were down 28% at one point.
Well, go see Michael Keaton in Pacific Heights, and you'll see what a nightmare that can turn into. It's an old movie, but definitely betting big on stocks when you don't have the stomach for it.
We saw this back in 2008 and 2009, and how quickly people forget. I remember back in late 2008 getting calls and emails from people who I thought of as veteran stock market investors, and they were terrified. They thought the world was coming to end, and they were selling. You do not want to be in a position where you're panicking out of stocks when the market is down 50%.
Well, how do you judge really quickly?
The best thing to judge your risk tolerance is to look back and see how you behaved historically. But don't just think about how you behaved historically. Also go back and look at those trade records. How did you behave in 2008 and 2009?
Sobbing, crying, shaking. It's all wonderful advice, and you can catch it in Jonathan Clements' column every single day in the Wall Street Journal. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Liz.
Great to see you.